Hey guys, I'm glad you're here. Today's project is this Troybilt 4cycle trimmer, and the problem is that the fuel lines are old, brittle, and breaking. The primer bulb isn't far behind, and we're going to replace both of them today. Hopefully it starts after we fix it. In this video, we repair this trimmer. However, it may not be the exact repair you need to make to yours. We'll explore other situations later in the video. This carburetor was rebuilt over a year ago, and it was working, but it has been in storage ever since. The fuel lines were decent then, but now they're very brittle and broken. The primer bulb still works, but it won't last forever, so we're going to go ahead and replace it as well. To replace the primer bulb, I'm going to remove the air filter cover and then remove the 4 bolts on the carburetor. It's kind of strange that only certain parts of the fuel line have become brittle. I'm sorry I didn't get a shot of the primer bulb being removed because I had to use my free hand to keep the carb together. It simply pushes out of the retaining plate, and then all you do is push a new bulb into the plate. Now replace the bolts to the carburetor, and then we'll tackle the fuel lines at the fuel tank. But before we remove the fuel lines, let's take a look at what lines go to which port on the carburetor and the fuel tank. Luckily for us, the two fuel lines are not the same color, so you can tell which line went to which port on the carburetor. Now there's still some old soft fuel line on the fuel filter that'll need to be removed before we put the new line to it. Now to install the fuel filter line, cut the line at a very steep angle, that way you can push it into the tank. Next, reach into the tank with some bent pliers and pull the line out. Pull enough out to cut the angle piece off so we can install the fuel filter. Make sure there's enough line so the fuel filter can reach all parts of the tank, especially the far side. Now cut the other end of the fuel line so that it reaches the carburetor and slide it onto the correct port. You can always make the line longer and just cut it later. Now you have to do the same thing for the return line, except obviously it's not going to be as long and you don't have to cut the angle piece off. And of course cut the other end so it reaches the carburetor and put it on the last remaining port. Now before we go any further, we need to test the fuel system to make sure it's working properly. So when we press the primer bulb, the fuel will come up through this line, and then fill the primer bulb, and then leave the carburetor by this line. Okay, it looks like it's working like it's supposed to, so let's now try starting it. Now it's very important that you follow the instructions that are printed on the trimmer because not all 4 cycles are started the same way. On some 4cycles, they tell you to squeeze the trigger while pull starting it, while others tell you not to touch it at all. And luckily for us, it ran just like it was supposed to. Always make sure that you run your equipment dry to keep the fuel from damaging the carburetor or the lines during storage. So another situation that you could possibly run into is having a remote primer bulb, where the bulb is somewhere else, not on the carburetor. If you have one of these, I would suggest changing the fuel lines one at a time. Otherwise, they might get crossed up. So my question to you is, do you prefer 2-cycle or 4-cycle trimmers? Or do you really care so long as it works well? I'm really interested in what your opinion is. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time. Please feel free to ask any questions, and I hope to see you in my next video.